punishment decreases a behavior, a reinforcer increases a behavior. Yelling is a reinforcer, not a punishment. That's important to know because we inadvertently set ourselves up for more problems when we yell. It trains our kids to respond then instead of when we're talking calmly. So here's a strategy that might help. And I've used this with so many clients and even with my own kids. Understand that your kids always have choices. Always. And if you haven't figured this out yet, notice that what you give them as choices, sometimes they pick something totally different, right? So they've always got choices, and at a very minimum, they have a choice to either cooperate or not with you. So, acknowledging their choice in the matter, let's set it up so that we have the greatest opportunity for success. I need to go back to something that I've mentioned before, and that has to do with the rules of plumbing. Some of you may have not heard this from me yet, but there were times early in our marriage when Vicki and I would find that something's wrong with the house and we need to have it fixed, and we couldn't afford a repairman. And so I got to do a lot of home repairs. Some of these involved plumbing. I'm not a plumber. I'm a psychologist. There's a difference. They both start with P, but that's about where the similarities end. Except for this. I consulted with my dad about this plumbing project that I was doing. He says, yeah, Paul, there's only 2 rules to plumbing, basically. 2 things you need to know. I'm interested, Dad. What is that? He said, well, the 2 rules are, first, water runs downhill. Okay, I can see why that one's important. Then he paused for a minute. He said, rule number 2, don't lick your fingers. And I laughed. It's funny, right? But if you've ever installed a toilet, you know what we're talking about here. Water runs downhill, don't lick your fingers. What does this have to do with psychology? I think that there are 2 analogous rules in psychology. Rule number 1, this is the water runs downhill rule. Some things you control, other things you don't. Get clear about that. It's important. And especially when you're dealing with your kids, some things you control, other things you don't. Things like their attitude and whether they're going to cooperate or not. You don't control that, they do. Here's rule number 2. Pay attention to the things you do control. This is going to save so much heartache as a parent because we're going to focus our efforts on what is within our own control to accomplish. Now, let's go to the strategy. Try this and make some comments down below about what you experience about this. I would love to hear from some of you on this. Here it is. Give them 2 choices. All right? Give them 2. Now, there's always more than 2, but you're going to give them 2 choices. Either one is okay with you. Either one. We make this mistake as parents sometimes to say, okay, you do this or else. Well, or else what? We give them a choice that is one that we like, and then they go pick something that we don't like.